Diana Lara-Rodgers. Diana is a health promotion program specialist at On Lok on 30th Street Senior Center. She is a registered ISMETA somatic movement educator, and she has a certification in developmental movement from the Body Mind Centering School. She's completing her MS in kinesiology at San Francisco State currently. Everybody, please join me in welcoming from your silent webinar seat to welcome Diana.
Thanks so much for the invitation to share information about somatic spine. We are going to be doing today like some exercises beside our presentation. So it's going to be a combination of talk and also some experiential exercises, because somatics is about your experience, either moving or imagining, using mental imagery, breathing. So we are going to combine information with some experiential exercises or explorations. So I have a background in somatics and also in science. So right now I am completing my Master in Science in Kinesiology at San Francisco State University. And I started that program after I was working at On Lok 30th Street Senior Center. So while I was working here, I started working with older adults and teaching some exercise classes that we offer here. We have a program called Always Active that is a multi-component exercise class. And while I was doing that, I realized also that how important was that seniors will also have like awareness of their body, and specifically from the central part of the body, the spine. Because sometimes, we get more focus in the movement of our arms and in our legs, that are the parts of the body that we use more in our everyday life, and that sometimes is emphasized in gym culture, exercise, fitness industry. So that's the reason that I got very focused in how I can bring somatics that I have been practicing for a long time into improving the movement of the spine and also create a good posture. So spine mobility. Why we would be concerned about spine mobility? Well, there's plenty of research, in fact, about how we lose spine mobility while we age. Yeah, so young people are more flexible in general than old people, and that happens independently of having a chronic disease. Yeah, so it happens to all of us, even if we are healthy. So the impact of the loss of spine mobility is that it decreases our ability to do our activities of daily living. This is like getting in and out of a car, or climbing stairs, or lifting objects, and driving, among others. And also, the lack of spine mobility, it can extend into other parts of the body, like the hips or the shoulders, and all of these impairments can have an impact in our posture and the balance, and that can increase the risk of fall. So the limitations in the spinal flexibility affect our function, and can also affect how we feel about how we performs in our life. Yeah. So despite that, there is some evidence that when we have lack of flexibility, this can have an impact in our activities of daily living. There are very few interventions or programs, exercise programs that focus on spine mobility at the level of the community and with groups of people. Yeah, there are like more like one-on-one physical therapy interventions, but not too many programs. Yeah, here in California and in other states that try to target specifically in spine mobility. So one of the ways to start with improving spine mobility and posture is to have body awareness. So the body awareness, the definition of it, here is one of the definitions. There are many definitions, but this one, it says, is a subjective phenomenological aspect of proprioception and interoception that enters conscious awareness and is modifiable by mental processes, including attention, interpretation, appraisal, belief, memories, conditioning, attitudes, and affect. So to put it like in a more simple way, the body awareness is how we feel our body from the inside. Yeah, and it has two components. It has a component that is called proprioception and another component that is called interoception. And we're gonna go, through these like concepts. But what it is important about body awareness is that requires attention, to attune in our sensations and perceive if there is like some changing that is happening in over time. So let's go and deep into what it is proprioception and what it is interoception. So I'm gonna move and then I'm gonna go back into this slide. So proprioception, what it is proprioception? So proprioception is the ability that we have of recognizing the different parts of our body and how they are related with each other. Yeah, so that means that we have like some specialized proprioceptors in different tissues of our body that can be muscles or tendons, joints, and the skin also. The skin is full of proprioceptors, and they provide us information about the relation of the different parts of the body, but also provides information about tension, the direction of the movement, the speed, and also sensations about touch. So another part of proprioception is also the relation that we can perceive between our head and the earth, and that is more related with our vestibular system, but is also part of the proprioception. So just to experience for ourselves, like what it is proprioception, I will ask you to do like something simple. So this is, let's close our eyes if you feel comfortable, or you can just maybe not look at the screen right now and just focusing what I am in my words. So I will ask you to close your eyes and touch the top of your head with one hand. And then you're gonna touch the belly with the other hand. And this is just, to like experience by ourselves that even with our eyes closed, we know where is our right hand and what is the relation with the crown of the head. And we know where is our left hand without seeing it. And we can position it in another part of our body. So this can seem like simple, but if we wouldn't have like those proprioceptors awake, we wouldn't be able to do it. Another one that is easy to do, and it's also give us like the sensation of how we can also like navigate distances is and still like recognize what are the parts of our body is like to bring our arms to the side and then close the eyes and then bring the index finger, the right index finger to the index finger together in the center. So we can navigate the space too. And that is also part of our proprioception. Even when we have like separate parts of our body, we can bring them together without seeing them. Another one is that we can move our parts of the body in different directions. So you can move one arm in front and another one in the side simultaneously. And even with your eyes closed, you know that you can do that. Yeah, so it's this awareness that my arms, my limbs can move in different ways. Another one is that you can like move your head and bring it towards the earth, and you know that your head is not, even with eyes closed, you know that your head is not upright, it's like now horizontal in relation with the earth. So, and another one that I like to do because I feel the sensations that are coming from touch are so important for our own sensation of who we are in relation with other, in sensations of what are our boundaries, is the touch. So if we like do like very light touch, we can feel that that is very different, even doing it by ourselves, or if other person touch our body in a very, very light way, versus like having something that it's more like a squeeze sensation of the muscles. Yeah. And of course, we can do it also like in legs or in arms, and all the body, we have a lot of proprioceptors.
Diana, would you like me to stop your share screen so that you have bigger, you take up bigger part of the screen so everybody can see what you're doing?
That was a good idea, yeah.
Yeah, let me stop your share screen. Perfect. We can see you in a bigger screen now. So feel free to redo anything if you want to reshare. The screen previously was quite small.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you can do some, but you don't need to do all of them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so what I was sharing before is that how we can, with our eyes closed, we can have access to a lot of knowledge of our body, and that comes from our proprioceptors. So one exercise that we were doing was like spreading our arms to the sides, and then with eyes closed, like just bringing fingertips, yeah, together. And even, without eyes, we can have a good sense of what is the direction of the movement and what parts of our body are moving. Also, we know we can do one arm in front, another in the side, and we know in what direction they are moving. If we do vibration also, we know that this is different, a vibrating movement in our hands versus some type of movement that it's more like linear. Yeah. So all that information is coming through our proprioceptors. Another one that we were like playing is like the type of touch. So we were like doing a very light touch. Yeah, and even if another person like is doing a light touch, we have a completely different experience that when we receive a massage, for example, and it's more like deep tissue massage. Yeah, so other proprioceptors stimuli. They have a different that are deeper in our fascia and in muscles. Yeah. So I want to continue now. I'm gonna share again my screen, and when I do the next exercise, I'm going to like remember not to stop sharing. So what it is interoception is the other part of proprioception. So the interoception is the perception of sensations that are coming from inside of the body, and includes perception of sensations that are like organ movement, for example, like the intestine movement or the heartbeat or breathing, and even sensations of like if we're hungry or not, and if there's like um, pain too. So pain is very related with like also our interoception. So let me stop sharing because I want to do an exercise about what it is interoception. So for interoception, I will ask you if you want to close your eyes to just put your hand in your heart, in your chest, and just to uh, attune with the sensation of your heartbeat. And then you are gonna bring your arm down, and I am going to give you a task. So this task is that I will give you 15 seconds, and for those 15 seconds, you are going to notice how many times your heart beat without touching anything, just like attuning with yourself. So I'm gonna give you those 15 seconds. So whenever you're ready, you're gonna count your heartbeats. Yeah, so ready, set, go. I'm gonna do it too. Okay. So now what we're gonna do is that in the same amount of time, we're gonna verify what was our guess of our heartbeat, and we're gonna take our radial pulse. So at the level of the thumb, if you follow the thumb at the level of your wrist, you can find your radial pulse that is similar to your heartbeat. So you're gonna count in 15 seconds how many pulsations you had. Okay, so let's do it. And stop. Okay, so in the majority of the cases, there might be like a small discrepancy, but what we were doing we were like looking at how accurate was our perception of our heartbeat based in our interoception. So interoception is just like getting attuned with like internal sensations. Yeah. Okay, I am going to go back into my presentation. And there's nothing bad if you didn't like get the exact count. Yeah, it's just an exercise. Yeah. So what are the benefits of the body awareness? Well, one of them is like improving spine mobility and posture. But in general, just like having a better perception of like the different parts of our body, at what velocity are moving, like in what direction, it is beneficial for movement in general, for function. And specifically in this case, if we focus in the spine, also we will have an effect in the balance. And one of the benefits of body awareness that has been very well documented is the effect in relaxation. And because of those different effects, there are like studies that have documented the benefits on treating low back pain, pain in general, cardiac diseases, irritable bowel syndrome too, and treatment of mood disorders in general. So I want to continue into what it is somatic movement. So somatic movement, it is an umbrella that encompasses or includes many modalities of movement. Yeah, so people from different disciplines practice somatic movement, from dancers to martial artists, occupational and physical therapies. So it is a multidisciplinary field. Yeah. And it has been developed over time. So it started developing at the beginning of the 20th century, and different techniques were created. And like the ones that I am pointing here in this slide, and one of philosopher in the 1970s, Thomas Hanna, decided, okay, there are like all these like different techniques. Why we don't like create a concept, a name, put them together in some concept? So he created the concept of somatics, which is the study of the living body. So he defined the soma as the living body that perceives from within by the first person perception, opposed to what a lot of other approaches of studying the body do, that is like seeing the body as an object, yeah, in third person, and not as something that is a self-perception. And because it's a self-perception, we can regulate it. So that was the main shift. It's not that it's something that is telling you like this is your body, it's that you are exploring your own body. So as I mentioned, the somatics takes information from different disciplines. It has information from medicine, from biology, kinesiology, psychology, but also has taken a lot of elements from Eastern practices such as Tai Chi, yoga, Aikido, Judo, Qigong, and I will continue to just talk a little bit more about body-mind centering. Yeah, so body-mind centering is one of these like somatic techniques that I was telling you about. So she's the creator of this technique of body-mind centering. Her name is Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen. She has 2 books that have been published about her methodology. And she has a school, it's called the School of Body-Mind Centering, and many people have graduated from it and have applied body-mind centering in different fields, working with all population, like myself, but also like working with like children, yeah, improving the developmental patterns of children. And also a lot of people have applied it to dance, physical therapy, occupational therapy. So it has many, many applications. And body mind centering focus on body awareness, as many other somatic techniques. So that's the reason that it is. I wanted to introduce first the concept of what it is body awareness, and we use elements of anatomy information and also a lot of mental imagery, and that can be presented by bringing an image of anatomy or some other image that can serve as a metaphor. And that can have an impact in how we repattern our movement and also improve, like certain patterns that cannot be so effective. I'm gonna move. So in body mind centering, the information is delivered by different channels. So as I mentioned, you can be visual images, drawings, but also we use a lot of models, anatomical models, and we also use auditory information from guided journeys that facilitate the embodied experience. And also we use touch, as we were experiencing before, because of there are so many proprioceptors in our skin. And we use a lot of balls, like props, like this ball that you can see here in the screen. And we also do exercises that are like seated or standing or in the floor. But we tried that everything is that the movements can be modified to fit the different fitness levels and range of mobility. So we use also resting periods. Not everything is movement. So the resting period can also provide us like time to integrate what we have been like learning and reflecting on. And we learn through exploration. Exploration is so important and is unique for each person. So we don't learn too much by imitation, but we propose something and each person can do it in a very different way. Mm-hmm. And the pace of the movement is slow. And why is it slow? Because when we slow down, we allow our inner experience. And that inner experience is what will like help us to make the change. Okay, so let's move into the next. So we use, as I mentioned, a lot of mental imagery. So, and when we talk about mental imagery, we are talking about a cognitive process of creating visual or auditory or kinesthetic experiences in the mind without or with, they can lead to movement, but they can lead to not movement. You just can be like in your brain imagining. So, and it has been used a lot for rehabilitation, the mental imagery, and also to improve the performance of athletes. And it's also used a lot in body mind centering, as well as in other somatic techniques. So it's an experience that try to mimic the real experience, or to be similar to the sensations. Yeah. So, for example, like this is an image from nature, and it's just talking about the power that we have in our tissues to create like a vertical line, even when we don't have bones, because, this is like a creature that doesn't have bones still. Yeah. So it's like to talk about, it's a metaphor about like how you can feel like the lightness in your spine and this connection of your mouth, yeah, or your head to the coccyx, without using the image of bones. So that creates a lot of lightness. Yeah. So just from seeing an image, you can like imagine like, oh, okay, I can have that upright position. Or you can use like an anatomical model, like the one that you can see in the right, and look at like the different like curves that exist in the spine and the possibility that you have of like pushing in from your coccyx, your tail, in a small ball. Yeah. So those are like different type of mental imagery that we use. So this is just to show you a class in which like we use balls and to create like some awareness of the front of the torso and how that can create like a good possibility of like movement in this transversal plane of motion. This is another example of how another way in which somatics can be used. This is a workshop that I conducted in Mexico with people who had experienced loss of family members, and they were attending an event, an international tribunal of conscience, in which like lawyers were providing support to them. And it was, a lot of like grieving and trauma, and we were like supporting with somatics the people who were like giving testimony and that were present in that event. So this is one of the testimonials that a person shared with us. We work a lot with collective rhythms and with bands and a way to create like connectivity and support between them. So that's another way in which like somatics can be used for like creating like a container, in events that have a lot of like grieving and trauma. Okay, so let's go to something like more like experiential. And I'm gonna invite you to stand up, and I'm gonna just share a little bit of information here about the spine. So the spine, before we do like something experiential, so the spine have like curves. Our spine is like, has this beautiful design of like curves inside, curve outside, curve inside, curve outside. So we have like different 1, 2, 3, 4 curves. 2 of them are going inside and 2 of them are going outside. And that design allows for like movement, but also for stability. It's a very wise design. And as you can see, like the size of the vertebrae is kind of smaller in the very top, in the cervical area of the spine, and then they become a little bit wider, yeah, and more deeper. And that is because, our arms and our head are like smaller in relationship with our legs. So the lumbar spine has to carry like, like more weight. We have like the hips and the organs. So it's designed also according to the amount of weight that is carrying. So, okay, I'm gonna stop sharing and we're gonna do some movement to create like some awareness of our spine. So if you are seated, it's a good time to stand up. And I am going to share here like some very, you can also do it as seated if you want. But it's a very simple exercise that I like to do just to find more mobility in my spine. So I will just use my hands in front of my chest. I sometimes use a ball, as you saw in the slide, and that is because the ball allows me to have a texture that will help me to relax, yeah? So we talk about like support. So the different props that we use are like helping our body to have a support, to open fascia, open muscles, have more sensations. So you can use the ball, and if you don't, of course, like, we're gonna use hands. Hands are also very useful. So we just start with that sensation, and from there, we're just going to give a massage to the inside of our hands, going through the torso. We are awakening the skin and the relation of the arms with your torso, so they are connected, and softening the chest. And now we're going to do the same in the opposite direction. Maybe sensing the temperature, the skin versus the fabric of your t-shirt or your shirt. And now we're gonna place the hands in our chest. And from there, we're just going to move to one side to the other. And try not to move your hips. Try to move the part that your hands is in contact with. So moving slowly and softening the upper part of your torso. And now from here, we are going to slightly bend your knees, and we're going to do a rotation of that part of your torso. So it can be very small, but we're just like finding that small range of motion. You can move your head, of course, from one side to the other. And I want to bring to your attention how, when we were like looking at that model of the spine, how the spine not only has the bones that you can touch in the back, but also has those big bodies, the body of the vertebra, that they come very close to the middle of our body. So the spine is more in the front than we sometimes believe. Yeah, it's 2/3 of our body are where the bodies of the spine, the vertebrae are. So now let's combine movements, because that is the beauty also of the movement of the spine, is that you can combine the movement. Let's combine the movement going to the side of your upper torso, and now your head will go and see, you're gonna see the floor and then move up. See the floor, now you're gonna see the ceiling. So you're moving your cervical spine in a transversal plane. You are rotating, and then you are lateral bending your over torso. And when I do this, I feel like I am letting my head, the back of my head, rest in a pillow. So my hand is a pillow. And I come to the center, and then we're gonna do the other side. So let's start like bending, lateral flexion of the upper torso, then hand behind your head, You're gonna look towards the floor and then up to the sky. And everything that we do in somatics is very small, slow, and the other part is that we try not to force. There's no force and no pain. So if this is painful, you just imagine that you are doing it. Yeah. Or do it even small range of motion. And then come to the center. All right, so that was just a little exercise so you can like experience what it is to do some of these exercises. Let me do a quick check of time. I'm going to share a little, I think we're almost at the time. Is that okay, Tuyang? Or can I share a little more?
It is definitely welcome if you want to share more. We don't have questions that came in from the registration other than some topics that participants would like you to talk about. But then I also want to make sure if after you share all the information you'd like to give, I'll open up the floor to see if there's anyone who want to unmute themselves and speak to the room.
Okay, I think I'm gonna just share one more slide and then we can like open it.
Definitely. Go ahead.
I just want to talk a little bit about how we use other tissues that are not bones. So we also use like organs, yeah. And if you look at this, you can see how our digestive tube is so close from the front of our vertebrae. And as I mentioned you, the body of the vertebrae is like sometimes occupying 2/3 of the depth of our body. Yeah, so it's like if we embody more the sensations of our digestive tube, we can also bring mobility into the spine. Yeah, so that is how like we can have an impact in posture is through dynamic alignment, and that is another concept that we use a lot in body mind centering. Is the spine flexibility is very important, but also the posture, and both of them are very interrelated because the dynamic alignment is how we connect both the three big muscles that we have in our body: your head, your rib cage, and your pelvis. And they are aligned when you are in movement and also when you are in a stillness. So we work also with those concepts, bringing mobility and bringing stability in your posture. Questions?
There is a registrant who wanted you to mention any kind of exercises relating to stenosis.
I don't have a specific exercises for stenosis, but I would say that stenosis usually leads to a lot of lack of mobility in the spine, and it depends of the part of the spine where you have the stenosis. So I don't have any specific exercise that I can share. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's okay too. This person mentions Zoom, which all of us are using today. And of course, it's in our everyday lives. Her shoulders roll forward and she's dealing with the loss of height due to hunching forward all the time as well. If you can address that and how one can begin to improve mobility and also pressure in those areas.
Yeah, very good question. So one of the ways that that we work with issues of posture, and specifically more in the upper torso, it's how we can feel the breath. So breath is so important for like the posture. So we talk about the diaphragmatic breathing. So one simple exercise is just to feel your breath. And I like to put my hands just in my ribs. So put my hands in my ribs, and when I inhale, I'm gonna sense my diaphragm, which is this big muscle that divides the thorax from the abdomen. I'm gonna feel that muscle going down, moving down, and my ribs expanding to the sides in the inhalation. And in the exhalation, that diaphragm will go up and the ribs are gonna move towards the center. So just like having that sensation when you breathe. Also the lungs are, the superior lobe lives here in your clavicles, under your clavicles. So also sense that when you breathe in, you can put your hands here in your clavicle. Sense that when you breathe in, the lung is expanding towards your hand. And when you exhale, it's going down. So you have this sensation, lung expanding to the side in your ribs, expanding up also. And when you exhale, moving down and in. And do it again, inhaling. Your ribs move out and your lung expand in under your clavicle. And when you exhale, the ribs go inside and your clavicle goes down. Well, let's do it in the other side. Inhaling, a big diaphragm moves down, ribs out, and the lung up. And then exhale, ribs in, diaphragm down, and your clavicle down. Again, inhaling, and exhale everything in, and clavicle down, and again. So those are like simple exercises that you can do to feel more the openness in between your shoulders. Another exercise that you can do if you have a band, that's another type of, let me show you. If you have a band, is also like try to feel the space between your shoulder blades. Yeah, and you can do it with a band or without your band, but it's just to feel like that space between the shoulder blades. And you can like open, when you open your arms with like some resistance, you can feel that space between your shoulder blades activating. Yeah. Okay. Two
That was
exercises.
lovely. Thank you, Diana. We do not have any more questions that we're waiting. If there's anybody else who'd like to unmute themselves, we have about 5 more minutes with Diana. If there are no questions, oh, I do see that somebody's raised their hand. Tony, please go ahead.
The trouble that I've had from spending so much time on Zoom is that I end up bending my neck down. And so I'm getting kind of a bend even when I'm not looking at Zoom. Is there something specific to do to counteract all that leaning forward that we do at our devices to help our neck be, the cervical spine be more in alignment?
Yes, good question. It's so common because we're using so much our devices and we use a lot this, and we usually use it and we like look down. And the head weighs a lot. Our head, it's has a lot of weight, especially when it's not on top of the spine. So imagine like all the weight that we have to carry when we are bringing our head forward. I'll tell you that sometimes it's not only the computer that is also being seated. So it's not only, it's a combination of both of them. So what happened is that from being seated too much we like tend to start shortening the psoas muscle. So we start like tucking our like pelvis in, and then to counteract, we start like putting our head forward or moving it down. So it's a combination of actions that is happening. So one of the ways that can be helpful is to also notice that when you are standing, you bring your tail down back. So if you have like any like tucking in, like try like just to be aware of that. So we look at the alignment of the outside of our shoulder with the side of the ribs, side of the hips, side of our knees. So pelvis and head are very related. So one of the things that I like to do also is to sense the back of my head. So touch the very big bones, yeah, the occipital bones. Yeah, that is called the atlanto-occipital joint. And sense the tip of your nose. And just sense the space between them. So your first vertebra, the atlas, is behind your nose. And sometimes we think that is lower than that. So I like just to have that sensation of the back of my head very present. I have one teacher that said, like imagine that you have a face in the back of your head. And that really changed your perception, because then like we tend to be very frontal and more with the computer because we are doing so much like frontal that we forget the back of our body. So even the back of our head and the neck, if we like bring more awareness, yeah, and try to like, she was like, imagine that your face is expressive and is in the back of your head and see what happened. I like to feel a lot the space between my occipital bones and the tip of my nose. And that usually helps me to counteract this motion that we do so often.
I hope that you found that helpful, Tony. Do you have anything else to follow up with it?
That was helpful. Thank you.
Perfect. We have a little bit more time left. We want to make sure that anybody who has a question, they can get it addressed. Otherwise, we'll leave it to Diana for any closings. I believe that On Lok has Tai Chi classes that you've mentioned. We, CHRC posted it on our calendar. So if you're aware of our website, you can check out the classes. They are both available in Zoom and in person. Diana, why don't you tell us a little bit more about them, such as schedule and such?
Yes, thanks. Yes, we have Tai Chi for Arthritis program, which is a 10-week program. It's evidence-based. It's created by the Tai Chi for Health Institute. So this is a program that has been like tested in different settings, in different countries, and they have found that it's very effective to improve balance and to also decrease like stiffness that is so associated with arthritis. So we have been teaching these classes since last year in person and also online. So if you, we are teaching them on Mondays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. here at 30th Street Senior Center. We are located in 225 30th Street here in the mission. And also we have some online classes Tuesdays and Thursdays from 11:30 to 12:30.
All right. It is 4:02. I thank everyone for registering and attending. Diana, mostly I want to thank you for spending the afternoon with us. This was really wonderful, and I loved the exercises, and especially you giving so much explanation behind all of the movements. Thank you.
Thanks so much for the invitation, and I hope this has been helpful for the attendees.
Oh, more than you think, especially with the world revolving around our computers and phones.